The blue whale. The largest animal to have ever existed on Earth. No, not just the ocean. Earth. Let's start with the obvious flex. The blue whale is not the biggest animal in the ocean. It is the biggest animal that has ever lived on this planet, in its entire geological history. Bigger than any dinosaur. Bigger than anything that has ever breathed, eaten, or made a sound on land or in water. Ever. At up to 33 meters long and 200 tons, a blue whale's heart is roughly the size of a small car. Its aorta, the main artery pumping blood away from that heart, is wide enough for a human adult to crawl through. A newborn blue whale calf is already around 8 meters long and gains approximately 90 kilograms per day just from drinking its mother's milk. That's not a baby. That's a biological infrastructure project. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Despite being the largest animal on Earth, the blue whale survives almost entirely on krill, tiny shrimp-like creatures that are roughly the size of your finger. A single blue whale can eat around 4 tons of krill per day. During feeding season, it will consume up to 40 million krill daily. The biggest organism on the planet is essentially sustained by one of the smallest. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. What nobody tells you, blue whale calls are the loudest sounds produced by any animal. They can communicate at up to 188 decibels, louder than a jet engine, at frequencies so low that humans literally cannot hear them without equipment. These calls can travel thousands of kilometers through the ocean. Blue whales have been talking across ocean basins for millions of years. We only figured out how to intercept those conversations in the 1960s. Before commercial whaling decimated their populations in the 20th century, there may have been over 350,000 blue whales in the Southern Ocean alone. Today, estimates suggest 10,000 to 25,000 remain worldwide. We nearly silenced the loudest voice on the planet before we even learned to hear it. The blue whale is living proof that evolution occasionally decides to just go completely unhinged with a scale slider. The humpback whale. The one that writes music and actually has culture. The humpback whale is the artist of the ocean, and I mean that in a deeply literal, peer-reviewed, scientifically documented sense. Humpbacks are around 15 meters long and weigh up to 40 tons, which is large but almost modest compared to the blue whale. What they lack in size, they completely make up for in personality and creative ambition. Male humpbacks sing. Not metaphorically. They produce complex, layered, evolving songs that can last for up to 22 hours continuously. These songs have structure, themes, phrases, recurring motifs. What's extraordinary is that all males in the same ocean basin sing the same song at the same time. But the song changes, evolves, and spreads across populations over time. Researchers have documented new song patterns spreading westward across the Pacific within months, almost like a cultural transmission of music trends. Humpbacks literally have hit songs that go viral across ocean basins. Nobody fully understands why. They're now their feeding behaviors. Humpbacks have developed something called bubble net feeding, where groups of whales cooperate to spiral upward below schools of fish, releasing air from their blowholes to create a cylindrical wall of bubbles that traps prey. Each whale in the group has a role. Some call, some spiral, some drive the fish. It is coordinated, learned, and passed between individuals. That's culture, not instinct. Their pectoral fins are the longest of any whale relative to body size, at up to 5 meters each. These are used for agility, not speed, giving humpbacks the ability to turn and maneuver with surprising grace. The tubercles, bumps, on the leading edge of those fins inspired engineers to improve wind turbine blade efficiency. Whales have already solved problems humans are still working on, and they breach, launching their full 40-ton body almost entirely out of the water, for reasons that still are not fully agreed upon by scientists. Possibly communication, possibly parasite removal, possibly because they felt like it. The humpback whale has been writing music for longer than humanity has existed, and somehow it still managed to influence wind energy technology on the side. The sperm whale. The one with the haunted head and a library in its skull. The sperm whale is what happens when evolution becomes genuinely experimental. At 18 meters and up to 57 tons, males, the sperm whale is the largest toothed predator on Earth. It has the biggest brain of any animal ever, around 8 kilograms of neural tissue. For comparison, the human brain weighs about 1.4 kilograms. It's not clear we're using ours more productively. Up to 1/3 of the sperm whale's entire body length is taken up by its massive, squared-off head, and inside that head is a bizarre organ called the spermaceti organ, which contains up to 2,000 liters of a waxy, oil-like fluid. Scientists debated for centuries about its function. Current leading theories: it helps the whale focus its sonar clicks into precise beams for echolocation, and possibly assists with buoyancy control during deep dives. It's essentially a biological sonar dish the size of a living room. Speaking of deep dives, sperm whales dive to over 3,000 meters, deeper than almost any other air-breathing animal, and hold their breath for up to 90 minutes while hunting giant squid in total darkness at crushing pressures. They hunt by sound alone, producing echolocation clicks that are among the loudest biological sounds ever recorded, around 230 decibels at close range. Loud enough to stun, possibly kill, prey. The sperm whale is a living acoustic weapon that also happens to be poetry. The strange part: researchers have recently begun to decode sperm whale communication. They communicate in complex patterns of clicks called codas, and different clans have different dialects that are passed down through generations. A 2024 project using machine learning found the combinatorial complexity of sperm whale coders is comparable in structure to human language. We may be on the verge of understanding what they're actually saying to each other. Also, ambergris, the waxy substance occasionally found in sperm whale intestines, formed around indigestible squid beaks, has been used for centuries in luxury perfumes and was historically worth more per gram than gold. Whales have been funding the fragrance industry for centuries without knowing it. The sperm whale is a 57-ton acoustic genius with a language we're only just beginning to decode, which means it's been talking and we've been too loud to listen. The beluga whale, the one that looks like it's perpetually mildly surprised. The beluga is sometimes called the canary of the sea. It is also called the whale that smiles at you, the whale with the movable face, and in some quarters, simply the white blob of joy. Belugas are 4 to 5 meters long and weigh up to 1,600 kilograms. They are white, the only whale that is fully white in adulthood, because they live in Arctic and subarctic environments where pale coloring helps with camouflage near sea ice. Their skin is also the thickest of any whale, up to 14 centimeters of blubber to survive temperatures of minus 1.7 degrees Celsius. The beluga's most remarkable anatomical feature is its lack of a fused neck vertebrae. Every other whale and dolphin has neck vertebrae fused together, which is why they cannot turn their heads. The beluga can literally turn its head side to side, which, combined with its naturally upturned mouth and highly flexible melon, the forehead organ used for echolocation, gives it an appearance of facial expression that borders on uncanny. It looks like it's thinking. It looks like it has opinions. It has opinions about you. That melon, the rounded, bulging forehead, is a remarkable piece of biological engineering. Belugas can change the shape of their melon voluntarily, adjusting it to produce different types of clicks, chirps, whistles, squeaks, and sounds that led early whalers to compare them to canaries. They produce sounds at frequencies from 40 Hz to 120 kHz, covering a range far wider than any other toothed whale. They also engage in surprisingly cooperative and social behavior. Belugas have been observed adopting narwhal calves into their pods. Interspecies adoption, documented and confirmed. There are also multiple documented cases of beluga whales mimicking human speech, not trained, but self-initiated after prolonged exposure to human environments. One beluga, named NOC, was recorded producing sounds so similar to human speech that a diver surfaced asking who had told him to get out of the water. It was the whale. The beluga whale has a face that moves, a voice like a symphony, and has been caught imitating human speech without being asked, which honestly raises questions about who's studying whom. The gray whale, the one that travels farther than almost any other animal and does it while pregnant. The gray whale is built for endurance in the same way that certain people are built for very long meetings, quietly, stubbornly, and with no visible sign of slowing down. At 14 meters and up to 35 tons, gray whales are not the most dramatic-looking animal on this list. They are mottled gray-white, heavily scarred, often encrusted with barnacles and whale lice. They look like the ocean floor has been doing renovation work on them for decades. This is because, in a sense, it has. Gray whales complete one of the longest migrations of any mammal, 18,000 to 22,000 kilometers round trip, from Arctic feeding grounds to breeding lagoons off Baja California, Mexico. Female gray whales do this while pregnant. They travel the full distance to give birth in the warm lagoons, spend weeks there nursing, then begin the return journey back to the Arctic to feed, covering the equivalent of a round trip from Lagos to Tokyo, as a heavily pregnant ocean mammal, without anyone handing them a prize for it. Their feeding strategy is unlike any other whale. They are bottom feeders. Gray whales roll onto their sides, typically the right side, making most of them functionally left-handed, and suck sediment from the ocean floor, filtering out amphipods, ghost shrimp, and tube worms through their baleen plates. They leave behind distinctive feeding pits across the ocean floor that reshape seafloor ecosystems and allow other species to access buried nutrients. They are effectively agricultural in their impact, accidental farmers of the deep. The gray whale was twice driven to functional extinction in the Atlantic Ocean by whaling, once in the 16th or 17th century, and the population never recovered. The Atlantic gray whale is gone. The Pacific population recovered after commercial whaling protections, going from an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 individuals to around 27,000 today. One of the more successful conservation stories in modern marine biology. In the warm breeding lagoons of Baja, gray whales have developed an unusual behavior. They approach tourist boats and actively seek human contact, lifting their heads to be touched and apparently enjoying the interaction. This behavior began in the 1970s. Nobody knows exactly why they started, and nobody knows why they're so selective about it, only happening in a few specific lagoons. The gray whale migrates the equivalent of half the circumference of the Earth while pregnant, farms the seafloor, and in its retirement spends the off-season asking to be petted by boats. The fin whale, the animal fastest enough to outswim sailing ships, which is why nobody knew it existed for so long. The fin whale is, in almost every measurable respect, one of the most extraordinary animals alive. It is also, for various frustrating reasons, the most underappreciated whale on this list. At up to 27 meters and 80 tons, the fin whale is the second largest animal on Earth, smaller only than the blue whale. But because it is fast, sleek, and tends to stay offshore, it was historically much harder to catch and study than other large whales. Early whalers called it the greyhound of the sea. It can sustain speeds of 40 kilometers per hour, fast enough that 19th century whalers simply could not catch it. The fin whale spent centuries being too fast to be murdered, which is genuinely admirable. They are built like a torpedo, streamlined, long, with a distinctive asymmetrical coloring that makes them unique among all cetaceans. The right side of the fin whale's jaw is white, and the left side is dark gray. The baleen plates mirror this, white on the right, gray on the left. No other whale has asymmetric coloring, and the reason for it appears to be functional. Fin whales frequently circle prey clockwise during feeding, which means their white right side faces inward toward the fish school, possibly causing disorientation. The whale essentially evolved camouflage for a very specific attack direction. Fin whales produce some of the lowest frequency calls in the animal kingdom, around 20 Hz, which propagate massive distances through the ocean. Historically, these calls were picked up by military submarine detection systems during the Cold War and were a source of genuine confusion before they were identified as biological. The Navy was monitoring whale conversations and didn't know it. Like blue whales, fin whales were massively depleted by 20th century commercial whaling. The Southern Ocean population alone dropped by an estimated 98% in the 20th century, from over 400,000 animals to perhaps 5,000 or fewer at its lowest point. Recent decades have seen genuine recovery in some populations, though numbers remain deeply uncertain. Fin whales also hybridize with blue whales, an extremely rare phenomenon among baleen whale species. Bluefin hybrids have been confirmed genetically and are occasionally found to be fertile, meaning two of the largest animals on Earth occasionally produce offspring together. The fin whale is the second largest animal in Earth's history, had asymmetric camouflage for one specific hunting maneuver, accidentally jammed Cold War military sonar, and sometimes has children with blue whales. And yet it remains somehow the whale people forget to mention. 8 whales. 8 different answers to the question of how to be enormous, intelligent, and ancient in an ocean that has been changing beneath them for millions of years. Blue whales built scale. Humpbacks built culture. Sperm whales built language. Orcas built civilization, arguably. Belugas built a face. Narwhals built a sensory instrument and accidentally built a mythology. Gray whales built endurance. Fin whales built speed. The ocean is older than anything humans have ever made. These animals have been in it, in one form or another, for far longer than we've been on land. Every one of them is doing something, sensing something, communicating something that we are only beginning to understand, if we are bothering to listen at all. The strangest fact about whales is not their size, or their songs, or their intelligence. It's that we share a planet with them and have spent most of recorded history trying to kill them rather than understand them, and that we are only now, belatedly, beginning to pay attention. Which is a lot to sit with. Next time you're floating on the ocean, and something impossibly large passes silently beneath you.